You found us. Hello, and welcome back. You're tuned in to Wine in 9, where all you need to learn about wine in 9 minutes or less. Here's your host, Bob Cappuccino.
Today, it's all about the basics of sparkling wine. All the basics you'll need to know about these fun wines, from champagne to prosecco to cava and more. By the way, there will be a part 2 in which I cover the methods on how all these great wines are put into the bottle. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, sparkling wine. Of course, the most famous and the most expensive being champagne. It is said that the first sparkling wine was discovered by a blind monk in the latter part of the 17th century, Dom Perignon, who was tasting a bottle of wine in his cellars and had it re-fermented in the bottle and produced a delightful effervescent. And a new industry was born. Now the process was refined over the next couple hundred years, so it wasn't really till about the 19th century that we came to know champagne as we know it today. Now sparklers can be made anywhere wine grapes are grown, and they are. Usually the people will use whatever their local grapes are, but traditionally in Champagne, it is by law that they must use a blend of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, or some of the more obscure little grapes. They can use individual grapes or they can blend. And most of the champagnes that you know as Brut non-vintage are indeed blends. Now the process by which this is made, which we're not going to get into today, gives a wine that has a yeasty, bready aroma and flavor that is very singular. Now I know you're saying that you see champagne all the time and it doesn't just come from France, but in this instance you have to understand that according to law, the only place they can use the term champagne is Champagne, France. Other countries use their own local terms. The United States is the only one who does not adhere to this international law. So you will see sparklers on the grocery store shelf or in the stores that may say champagne on their labels, whether they were using the traditional method or not, but they're really not champagnes, they're sparkling wines. Now the sparkling wines that we come to know, whether they're made in France or in other countries, very often, the lightest will often be called Blanc de Blanc. It means that they're made from white grapes only, or Blanc de Noir, which means they're made from red grapes only. And yes, you can make a clear wine like champagne or like sparkling wines by using a black grape. Sparklers and bubblies, we like to call them, are wonderful companions to a wide variety of food styles. They're not just for wedding toasts, not just for celebrations or squirting around the locker room after the big game. These are wines that you can basically use anywhere you would use a good white wine. So it really goes with a wide array of food styles and cuisines. I prefer that they're served very cold, 42 to 45 degrees. I'm a believer that we serve generally our white wines too cold and our red wines too warm. But in this instance, sparkling wines are at their best when they're quite chilled. Now, the best of them, whether they be from Champagne or other parts of France or from around the world, the best are the driest ones that go best with shellfish like oysters and the richness of lobster. They'll go very well with sautéed seafood, wonderful with oysters, and of course, classically, caviar. Now, other varieties or other sparklers that you'll run across, of course, there are wines that are produced in Italy called Franciacorta. They're made in the same method as champagne, but again, they can't be called champagne. And they use pretty much the same grapes as they use in champagne. But it's more famous cousin, Prosecco, that most people have really become familiar with in the last couple of years. Now, Prosecco comes from the northeastern corner of Italy. The grape that is used there is Glera, and it's almost exclusively Glera, although now they allow the winemakers to blend a little bit of another white grape into the process. Now these wines, unlike the wines that are made from the traditional method, which give you that bready, yeasty characteristic, these are wines that really focus on the lightness and the fruitiness of the grape itself, which makes them very pleasant for an aperitif, very easy to drink by themselves. But they're wonderful with sushi and sashimi. I like the way sometimes at the sushi, the wasabi, which plays with the fruitiness of Glera. It's really perfect with fried foods. In Venice, the principal city of the region where Prosecco is produced, is famous for its dish called frito misto, which is a large platter of fried shellfish and finfish, all from the Adriatic Sea. And I don't think you find a more refreshing glass of wine to go with it than a nice glass of a Brut Prosecco. Going a little further west in the Mediterranean, the Spaniards, not to be left out, especially in Catalonia around Barcelona, have been producing a wine there called cava. And they've always used the traditional methods that are prescribed in Champagne to produce their sparkling wines. But they use their own local grapes. They use Parellada, Xarel·lo, and Macabeo to produce an earthier, heavier style of wine. It goes wonderfully with paella, but it also really is a great match to the many, many different little dishes that they give you called tapas, or in other parts of Spain they're called pinchos. But they're little tiny aperitif or appetizer size, almost canapé styles of different fish and hams and cheeses that really, really marry well with cava. Up in Germany, they produce a delightful wine made generally with Riesling, and they're called Sekt. S-E-K-T. I particularly like it with salmon. For some reason, the characteristic of the German Sekt give almost a citrus lime flavor to the salmon. So a very, very pleasant combination. That's it. But look for our next episode when I talk about how these wines are made. It's fascinating and it's great to know. I'm Bob Cappuccino. Enjoy the day and enjoy the sparklers. Go out and buy some.
Thanks for listening to Wine in 9. We hope we used your 9 minutes wisely. If so, or if not, please let us know. Give us your feedback, good, bad, whatever. We'd love to hear from you. Look for Wine in 9 across social media. We're at winein9.com, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So grab a glass and join, subscribe, download, tweet, whichever you choose. Or you can go to our home base at winein9.com. Want to email? We're at info@winein9.com.